Hi everyone, I'm Adewale Said Damilola, a data analyst and one of your instructor in this SQL Launchpad program. I welcome you all to Inside Data Academy. Inside Data Academy is your go-to for learning anything data, including data analysis, data science, and data engineering. However, for this course, I'll be one of your lead instructor for the SQL Launchpad. The other instructor also that will be taking care of other parts of this course is also here in person of Mr. Isaiah Ezien. Mr. Isaiah, can you please kindly give us a short, brief introduction, please?
Okay, good evening, everyone. Hi, everyone. My name is Isaiah and I'm excited to be here. And just as I said, I'll also be taking you guys on some aspects of SQL. I'm a data scientist, book analyst, and I hope to have good time with everyone as we all learn together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Isaiah, for that quick, short introduction. Before going further, I'd like to ask our audience to simply just pronounce this particular word over here. I hope my screen is visible. Can somebody just unmute his or mic to pronounce this particular?
Okay, so I think it's called SQL. Some people call it SQL.
All right, that's absolutely correct. Some people call it SQL, while some call it SQL. Either of the two is correct. Anyone that you can call it SQL if you like, you can call it SQL. So without wasting much of our time, welcome once again to SQL Launchpad. In this course, we'll be discussing the basics. We'll be starting with the basics of SQL, what SQL entails, including what a database is, what are those operations that we do perform in a database, what are those types of databases we have, and also we're talking about the database management system. Likewise, we'll be starting with some basic SQL queries, and afterward, we'll talk about the order of execution. Going with the first part of today item, database. When you hear a database, what comes to your mind? That is where data is being stored. When I'm talking about a database, that's just a place where your data are being stored. Whenever you need it, you go to your database and retrieve your data. Or whenever we're talking about a database, when we're talking about a database, we say where data are being stored. What is data itself? Data can take any format. Data is just a basic raw information that is yet to be processed. A data can be in different formats. It can be in text formats. You can have a data in text formats. Likewise, you can also have a data in an audio format. It's also a data. It can also be in video formats. Likewise, it can also be in image or picture formats. So all these are various types of data that you can have. However, specifically for data analysts, whenever we are talking about a database here, as in data analysis realm, we are only concerned by text data. What do I mean by text data? That is numbers, alphabets, words, and the likes. We are only more concerned with text data. As I said earlier on, that database stored data, right? And here we are mostly concerned with text data, which includes numbers and alphabets, just in the layman language. There are several operations that can be performed in a database. The most frequently performed operation in any database includes creation, that is to create. It also includes reading, that is reading data from a database. Likewise, we also have updating a database. We can also update a database. And finally, we also have the delete operations. What do we mean by create? That is to add a new record into the database. Think of a database just like a storage that several text data are in there. We create a new record. Let's say we just have a new data entry or a new table inside our database over here. It's part of the operation. That is, we just create if you have a purely new database, for you to start it, you start by creating new record inside into the database. Likewise, after creating some new records, let's say you've created like about 3 new records inside your new database. How can you retrieve it? How can you read what it's inside? By you finding the existing record inside your database, you are performing a read operation on your database. You've created a new database, right? And you have some records. You've created some new record. Let's say this is record 1, record 2, and record 3 in there. For you to look into what you've created, that particular operation is being called reading operation. That is, you are reading your database. Afterward, you might add some adjustments. Okay, this particular record that I recorded, let's say in the past years, has been modified. It has some new features in it. You can also update, let's say record 1, you can also update it. It's also as part of the operation in which we do perform in a database. Then finally, deletion or deleting. Let's say, for instance, this record 2 over here is no longer useful again. You can also simply delete this record out of your database. So it will remain only record 1 and record 3. These are basic operations in which we do perform in a database or on a database. So going further, what are those types of database we have? Basically, we have 2 types of database. Types of database. We have the relational database. We have the relational database, and we have the non-relational database. Non-relational. I'm giving us all this as an introduction before going to our SQL itself proper. These are the basic information that we will need to know in order for us to grasp what SQL is all about. Because when you say SQL, it means structured query language, right? That's the full meaning of SQL. That is structured query language. What do we mean by this structure? We are coming there. So, coming back to the types of database we have, we say we have a relational database and non-relational database. From this first one, as you can see from its name, relational, that is, it has some things in what it's relating with other things, that is, it are interacting with other things. That is, whenever you have a record, a particular record, interacting with one another in a database, we call that particular database a relational database. That is, there are some things in common. Take, for instance, let's say this is our database over here, and we have some records in there. Let's simply call this A record, B, and C. If record A has some things in common with this record B, or record B has some things in common with record C, we call this a relational database. And basically, a relational database usually contains table. It contains what? It contains table. Table is just another fancy term used in data analysis field to mean any structured data in which can be represented with rows and columns. That can be represented with rows and columns. Take for instance, as any one of us as in do some little data analysis using Excel before? Any?
Yes.
Or a row is just as in the unique entry in a spreadsheet, while a column denotes the attributes or the fields in our data set, right? So, and every row is unique. Every row in a as in a data set, they are what? Every row are unique in a data set. So whenever you have a record in which it can be structured in a tabular format, that is in rows and column, we call that particular database structure relational database. And a popular relational database structure is SQL. That's why it's called structured query language. That is a language in which you use to retrieve, create, delete, update a data or a record in a database. As we made mention earlier on that there are several operations in which we do perform in a database. That is the operations over here. SQL is just a language that you use to perform all these 4 basic operations. You use it to create a record, use it to read a record, use it to update, and use it to delete. So if you are being asked that what is the function of SQL, just simply reply by saying SQL is a structured query language. It's a language, it's a programming language, just like any other programming language like Python, Java, C++, and the likes, that is being used to retrieve, that is being used to create, read, update, and delete a record in a structured database. So that's just as a little as summary definition of what SQL is all about. However, the other type of database that we have is non-relational. When we talk about non-relational, there we talk about NoSQL. NoSQL simply means not only SQL, that is not only SQL. We said an SQL database or a relational database to say is a structured database. That is, it can be structured, it can be represented in what? In tabular format, in rows and column. However, a non-relational database doesn't contain only a structured data as in entry or a structured records. It contains both structured and unstructured data. What we mean by this structured over here is table, that is rows and column. While unstructured, it includes any other data formats like video, audio, picture or images, and the likes. So for a NoSQL database, it comprises of what? Non-structured data. All of them as in both text, it can be text sometimes, like in case of MongoDB, it's a document-based non-relational database that is being used to read documents. And it can also contain some videos, audios, and mixture of everything like that, all sorts of data like that. However, as a data analyst, we are more concerned with this particular first one, a relational database. This other one, we are least concerned about it, that is in a non-relational database. We are least concerned about it. As a data analyst, you only work with a relational database. That is a database that its records can be represented in a tabular format, rows and column format. So that being said, let's move to the next agenda over here, which is DBMS. What do we mean by DBMS? We talked about database the other time, that database is used as is just like a storage in which we save several records into it. And we can perform some operation like create, update, delete, and the likes on it. Then we talk about SQL, the structured query language. That is a language in which we use to query this particular relational database over here. But however, we can't access these records, that is all these records in our database directly without having a software that can serve as an intermediary to interact with the records in our database. The software is called DBMS, that is Database Management System or softwares. A database management software is just a software that serves as an intermediary for you to query those records inside your database. However, since we're talking about a relational database here, we'll be talking more about a relational database management system, that is relational database management system or software. Some of the relational database software that we have includes MySQL. We have the Postgres. We also have Microsoft Server, that is SQL Server. We have the SQLite. There are many. We also have SQLite and the likes. All these particular softwares, they are called relational database management software. They are those softwares that you can use to interact with this particular database. Are we all clear with that, please? Hello?
Yes.
All right. Take it one after the other. SQL is a structured query language, that is a programming language that we use on a relational database. However, SQL has several softwares or flavors in which we can leverage on to query this particular database, this particular relational database over here. So some of them include MySQL, Postgres, SQL Server, SQLite, Oracle DB. Name them. There are many. There are different types of words. All these words are just SQL flavors. That is different type. So you can leverage on any of these to query a relational database. However, for this our course, we'll be using MySQL as our relational database management software. MySQL is one of the RDBMS we have, and you can simply install that by simply visiting the website over here. Let me just copy the link and paste it in the chats below over here. You can simply just save that for now or bookmark it. As time goes on, as in walk you through on how to install MySQL on your system. Coming here, you can simply just download this first one over here. If you are a Windows user, simply select Microsoft Windows over here. Then download this first part, that is that of 2.1 MB. Download it. Then install the MySQL server and the MySQL workbench. MySQL workbench is just like a database tool, a GUI tool, that is graphical user interface for displaying your data, for displaying your queries and the likes. It looks somehow like this. Something like this. This is the interface of workbench. You'll be given a walkthrough video on how to install MySQL server and MySQL workbench using the MySQL installer over here. So going forward with our outline over here, we've talked about a database, that a database is a storage that stores data, whether it's in text format, audio, video, or image. However, as a data analyst, we are more concerned about text data. We're talking about text data here, whether it's quantitative or qualitative. That is, it might be numbers, basically numbers and alphabets or letters. Then we talked about some basic operations in which we do perform on a database, which includes create, read, update, and delete. Likewise, we also made mention of the types of database we have. We have the relational database and non-relational database. As a data analyst, we are more concerned about a relational database. A relational database is just a tabular database that can be represented in what? In table, in rows and column. While a non-relational database comprises of what? Unstructured data, both structured and what? Unstructured data. A good example of a relational database is SQL, which has several flavors like MySQL, Postgres, SQLite, and likes. Why non-relational database? Part of it as in type, we have the MongoDB, we have the Cassandra, we have Redis, and the likes. Even though it's least of our concern as a data analyst in this in this avenue, we are least concerned about non-relational database. They are more being used by software engineers and the likes. So coming down to queries, when we're talking about queries, what do we mean by as in querying a database? Just like the English word, if you have been as in to query something, that is to ask a question, basically, that is you are querying or to petition someone in another English, that is okay. Maybe somebody is being queried by his boss, that is being maybe allegated by his boss or being petitioned by his boss. However, in the basic English, to query, that is to ask a particular question. And what do we mean by that? Querying is just a method in which we write some statements in order for us to retrieve some data from our database over here. And some of the basic SQL queries that we have that we'll be teaching today includes the select and where statements. We'll be using the select and where statements. What do we mean by that? First of all, before going further, the data set we'll be using for this particular course, it's an e-commerce data set. And I'm very sure all of us now, will have gone through what the data set entails. Am I right, please?
Right. Yes, sir.
All right. So if you check the data sets, it includes something like this. See that. We have something like this. We have the e-commerce return table. We have the products table as a data set, I mean. We have the other data sets, we have the other item data sets, and we have the customer data sets. So when you download this, you go through it to see the features or the feeds, the columns and the rows, how it looks like, dimension of the data sets and the likes. So for those of us that we are yet to check that, the link is in the group. We can simply check that out. So for this particular data set, I've created a .sql file for creating the table for each of these data sets, and also I've entered those values in there. I just do that as I did that tonight. If you check this is just 8:30 p.m. So you can simply just check that link, or I will copy it and paste it back to the group. You will find a file over there called MySQL Launchpad.sql. This particular .sql file is the database that comprise all these data sets in there. Let me show you what I'm talking of. Close this. Okay. Here's what I'm talking of. When you download that file and you import it into your MySQL workbench through this process, just click on administrator. So just simply click on data imports and restore. Click on it. Then wherever you save it, on your system or on your desktop, just click this import from self contained file and simply locate the parts in which you save the file in there. Let's say, for instance, this is it over here that I saved it here. Just click and open. Afterward, then click Start Import over here. So that's about that. So coming back to, I've imported it already, which is here, which you can see it over here, the customer table, we have the order item table, we have the orders, we have the products and return. Let me just simply as in display how this looks like. The customer table, when you check it looks something like this. It looks somehow like this, where we have the customer ID, the first name, the last name, the email, join date, city, states, and the likes. So whenever you import that, you're able to as in find this out. Are we together, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that is what I just made mention of regarding retrieving the .sql file.
Hello, sir. Hello.
All right.
I didn't hear what you said.
Yeah, I asked that. Can you simply reiterate what I just explained now regarding the .sql file over here?
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So based on what you said like we can import some data into our MySQL software. So in the data set, as what I can see here, we have different tables, so which contain different set of data.
Yeah.
So we can import them through import data in MySQL.
Okay.
Okay, so from there now, we can now see the different tables with their arrangement.
Okay. All right. Exactly. So for those of us that might be somewhat skeptical about how to do that, how to go about that, the drive link in which it contains the data set and everything in there, that is this particular link over here in the PDF being sent to the group earlier on, this particular link, just simply click on it. It will lead you to something like this. Then download this. Click on download to download it. As it's been downloaded, it will save on my system. It do save on as in the download folder. So afterward, come to your MySQL over here. Click on administration. Administration, as you can find it.
I don't see the link. Link you said. Google link you said I did not see it.
The Google link,
I say we
let
have
me
to
simply
import
use
the
that.
file from.
Okay, let me simply copy it and paste it to the chat. You can as in access it from the chat now. So afterward, just simply come to your MySQL Workbench interface and click on administration. When you click on administration, you have management, instance, and performance. Come to this management part. The last option here, which says data import or restore, click on it. When you click on it, you have something like this. Check mark this button, this radio button over here, import from self-contained file over here. Instead of you clicking here, click on this import from self-contained file, then click on this parts. Let's say I just downloaded the MySQL Launchpad.sql file. It will be found over here. It will be found over here. So you click on it. However, mine, I saved it in my documents where I have some dumps over there, which is this. Click on it, then click open. As you can see, this part now is pointing to the MySQL Launchpad.sql on your system. You can see the parts, users, warriors, documents, DOMs, blah, 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 like that. So afterward, click on this new over here. You see new. That is, you want to create a new database. in which all these tables, the customer tables, the order ID, other item products will be in there. Click on new and name it with any name that is convenient to you. I can simply name my SQL Launchpad. Then click OK. As you can see here, the default target schema now is what? MySQL Launchpad. Afterward, click on Start Import. Click on that Start Import. You see it's loading. So it takes some time because the data set is somehow heavy. There are some records that are like more than 10,000 records in there, as in some tables that has more than 10,000 records in there. So now, as you can see, import completed. The data sets or the .sql file that are imported that I downloaded earlier on and created a schema, a database schema named MySQL Launchpad for it has been imported successfully. So click here on schema over here and as I refresh this. Can any one of us see this particular part, MySQL Launchpad, like that? Can any one of us see that?
Hello, sir. Please, where do you say we should look at?
Please, can you come again with your question?
Like
please?
you said, we should look at somewhere. So I didn't get that part very well.
Yeah. After you got it, do you got it till this stage of import completed?
Yes, sir.
All right. So afterward, there's another bar over here, another tab, I mean, called schema. Click on schema. Then you find out this particular database schema that you just created, that is MySQL Launchpad. And when you click on it, you find out all those tables in there. This was the table I created before initially, as in that I used for the .sql file. However, this is the new one that we just imported. You find it like this on yours. Actually, I created this to make the starting more easier for all of us. Instead of us creating the database, something like this by ourselves, then importing the data sets into the file and likes like that. So those stages we've skipped it. We can just simply go directly to the work itself, to the query itself. Even though we'll still explain how to create a database, how to insert some values into our data, how to create a table and the likes. However, for now, let's just take it one after the other. We'll start with the basic SQL queries, which includes the select statement and where, order, by, and limits. Those are the basic SQL queries for short, and get started with that. So, however, you're able to, after importing it successfully, you're able to find those things. So, going now with the basic queries, that is the select and where statements. As you can see here in our outline, we'll be talking about the select and where statements, basically. Then you have a project task to do after we complete today's explanation on select and where statements, which will be expected to submit unfailingly tomorrow. And aside that, you also check out the data, familiarize yourself with data sets that you are being given and the basic query that we'll be discussing today. As I said earlier on, that we'll be discussing the select and where statements. What do we mean by select? As it implies, that is to pick something out, right? Select statements. To select something, that is to pick out of many. Take, for instance, you have a data set. Let's say you have a data set like this. It comprises of the several columns. Let's say we have this comprise of ID. Let's say student ID. Let's say this comprise of name. Let's say this is school. Let's say this is age. While let's say this is what can we call it? Let's just leave it like that. Let's say we have a data set like this. Out of this lot, that is out of several attributes, we call all this ID, name, school, age, let's say departments and the likes. We call them attributes in SQL. You call them attributes or you call them fields. The attributes or what? Or fields. So in this particular data set, we have how many fields in there? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We have about 5 attributes or 5 fields in this particular data set. Let's say we only need the name of each student, the name, and their age alone. We only need this and this. We will only select name and what? And age. ID, school, department is our least concern. We're less concerned about them. So you use the select statement to select the attributes or the fields that is useful to your analysis. You use these tools to select fields that are useful for your analysis. That's what select statements do. Let's implement that on our workbench and see. Let's have something like this. Let's say select. Let's say select everything from which table are we using? Let's say from products. From products. And let me run this. Control Enter. Can we see this, please? The table below over here.
Yes, sir.
All right. What these statements over here is simply doing is that, as you can see, the table of product the product table, I mean, we have the product ID, we have the product name, category, subcategories, and the likes. Let's only say in our analysis, we are only needing the product name and the category alone. I will use my select statements to just select those 2 columns or those 2 fields. You know, we call them fields, right? Or attributes. Product ID is an attribute or a field. Product name is also another field. Category, subcategory, price, and the likes. So let me only select the product name, and category. And let me run that. As you can see from our initial table, it changes from selecting all the fields in our data set, and it's only limited to what the product name and category alone. So that's the function of what select statements. It do what selects a particular field that is related or that is useful for our analysis. This other one that you see here, from is just as another statement also used in SQL to tell SQL that, okay, pull this particular data or pull this particular data from this particular table. Pull this particular table from the database, I mean, that is from our SQL Launchpad, pull out this customer, this products table out. Then select product name and category. Please, are we all clear with that?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, sir.
It's all right. So that's the basic function of my of select statements. This syntax, you see that I wrote some keywords in caps, that is in capital letter, while some are in small letter. Basically, in SQL, whenever you are writing a keyword, that is, those are those registered words in MySQL, like this select, from, where, look by, and the likes. You write them in capital letter. You write them in capital letter for readability. That is to make it easier to read your query. Take for instance, you are writing, let's say, some lines of query, let's say like hundreds of lines of query. For you to make it easier to, as in, for another person reading your query, it's expected of you to write those keywords or those clauses in capital letter. However, if you write it in small letter, it will still serve that same function. Take for instance, let me comment this out and write it in a small, as in lowercase. Select, let's say products, or let me just simply copy the two. Copy and paste. So let me write this also in small letter. Let's say from. If I rerun this, you can simply run it by clicking, as in selecting any part of the state of your query and click Control Enter, or simply highlight all and come here, over here, the execute button, click on it. You still have the same thing. As you can see, it still gives out, as in the result is still the same thing as the previous. So meaning that MySQL doesn't what is not case sensitive. It is what case insensitive. Whether you write it in caps, as in the keywords in capital letter or in small letter, it will still give you the same results. Are we clear about that? So that's the main function of select statements. So furthering with our today outline, let's move ahead with where statements. What do we use where for in MySQL? As it sounds, when you say where, it's a conditional statement. It's used in SQL to give condition that, okay, I do not need all these particular variables. I only need a particular variable that meets a particular standard or a particular condition. Let us do it as in a practice of that. Let's see from this particular table again. Let's say we only want to select. Let's select everything. This asterisk is used to select all the fields. That's what it means, that is select all fields. That's the meaning of that asterisk over there. Select all fields from products. Control Enter. Here's all our fields. Let's take, for instance, we are doing some analysis. Then we only need those prices that are, let's say, higher than, let's say, 300, for instance. That is, we have the price field over here, as we can see. So let's say we only need those prices that are greater than 300. Let's say where price is greater than 300. Let's run this again. Control Enter. If you check through, if you look through all this as in this column of price, you will find out that those prices that are being listed now are greater than 300. If you check them all through, all of them are greater than 300. You can see 691, 310, 1008, and the likes. Meaning that we are conditioning this particular query. We do not want all, as in the data sets, to appear. We only need some data sets or some entries or some rows that met some condition. In our own case, that met this particular condition, that meets this particular condition where price is greater than what, let's say $300 or 300 naira, for instance, as the case may be. So we use where as a conditional statement, while we use select to display some particular fees. So that's where we'll be stopping for today. We learned today about database, what a database is. Likewise, we also made mention of operations. Likewise, we also made mention of types of database. Likewise, we also made mention of DBMS, what it means, and several flavors in which it includes. And today, we also made mention of what queries. And finally, for today, also, let me just add it as a rounding up note, order of execution. how does MySQL or how does SQL queries, how do they execute three statements that we just learned today? That is select, from, and where. MySQL, that is behind, that is the MySQL engine itself. The way it's reading this is that it starts from here, that is from products. It's pulling out the product table from our data sets. Afterward, it will read this particular clause over here, where the price is greater than 300. Then finally, the select, then display those that meets up the standard, that meets up with the condition. This is what I'm saying here. Let me just sketch it out. Regarding the three statements that we made mention of today, that is the select, from, and where, their order of execution goes like this. It starts from where, from. That is, MySQL will read it which we read a particular data, a particular table from our database. Here, the table is named products. Let's say this is our database over here. You know, inside this our database called MySQL Launchpad. That's the name of our database, right? Then in there we have about 5 tables. We have the products table, we have the customer table, we have the order, we have the order item, and we also have think we have customers and likes. So the MySQL engine will be reading it, that is from products, that is from this particular table inside our MySQL Launchpad database, that is come to this place and pick this out of the lots, that is out of all these other databases that are, as in out of all these other tables that are inside our database, pick this. Afterward, it will implement the where statement, that is where price is greater than 300. Inside this particular product table, we have several fields in there. We have the product ID, we have the, let's say, the product name and the likes. In there also, we also have the price. The price shows the, as in the amounts of the product. Let's say this is 300, this is 450, this is 500, and the likes. So this where is a conditional statement, that is where this price is greater than 300. Only select those prices that are greater than 300, like this 450 and this 500. Then afterward, the select statement will now will take over, that is display all of them. That's the meaning of this asterisk. So in order of execution, from comes before what, where, and where comes before what, select. Even though when we're writing our query, we wrote select first, but in order of execution, this is the first one, followed by this, then followed by this. So that's where we'll be stopping for today. If you have any question, please kindly ask or mute your mic, and let's ask any ambiguity so that we can clarify it before we call it a day. Is there any question, please? I'm already with it. All right. Thank you so much. That means you understood all what we discussed today. Can I ask mine?
Yes.
All right. We discussed something related to DBMS. What does that mean, please? What is it all about? Database management software.
From my understanding, DBMS, database management software, is just a software that that we can use, that serves as an intermediary. We can use to query our database, so to get something from our database, to query our database. It's a software for querying databases.
All right, exactly, correct. That's good. Also, we made mention of the order of execution. Can you just simply as in list it in orderly manner between the select statements, from, and where? In order of execution, can you just simply arrange them how they are being executed in orderly manner, please.
Orderly manner, that's from where then select.
Yeah, correct. We made mention of database, and we made mention of some operations, some basic operations that we do perform on a database. Can you just walk us through some basic operations that we do perform on database?
Is it like your delete, create? Is that it?
Yeah, continue. You're on the track.
Up,
We have the
update.
create. Okay. Updates. The last one.
I can't remember.
That means if you want to remove a particular record from our database, what will you do? What should we do to remove it as in a particular record or a particular table from our database?
Drop.
Hmm?
Is that drop?
Don't drop it. We'll delete it. Even though that's another name for deleting. Yeah.
Yeah, I said delete. Yeah.
All right. That's nice. We'll be rounding it up here for today. And tomorrow we'll continue from where we stop. Tomorrow, God's willing, we'll be talking about other operations or other queries that we do use in SQL. There we'll be discussing about the group by statements, the order by, and the limits. And also tomorrow, we'll also revise logical statements in SQL. Here we'll be talking about the and, greater than, or not operations and the likes, all those logical operations. We'll talk about it. However, before talking about that, we were tasked with this particular first task over here, the project task. In the product table, filter those items that are greater than what 50. Forget about this other one written over here. Just only these parts. We've done something similar to that tonight. That is, we find those products in which their price is greater than 300, right? But as your project task, find those products that their price tag is greater than 50. So do that and screenshot it and send it to the group, and it should be noted. So let us call it a night over here. Thank you all for attending the first class today. See you guys tomorrow. See you in the group. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you, Said.
All right, sir. Sir Isaiah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.